Big shout out to Grav. I know the majority of you who watch this video know who Grav is. He has a series, not even series, he just does videos on his channel once in a while that talk about players in this kind of way. And I actually reached out to him on Twitter the other day asking him if it was okay to make my video on Cody Glass in this kind of way as well. We need to talk about Cody Glass, and he gave me the okay, so big shout out to Grav for being a good sport about it. But we need to talk about Cody Glass. And it's not just because of one thing in particular. Cody Glass, if you know who this guy is, he was the very first draft pick the Vegas Golden Knights ever made back at the 2017 NHL entry draft. This was significant because they were the brand new team in town, they were the expansion team, we had all the moves that were done with this team to acquire a whole bunch of draft picks. I think they had like 3 first-round picks in that 2017 first round. But Cody Glass was their own pick that they used at 6th overall. It's interesting because he went immediately after a string of incredible players in Miro Heiskanen, Cale Makar, and Elias Pettersson. But as we noted earlier, he was not the only Vegas Golden Knights player taken in the first round. A few picks after, at 13th overall, you had a guy by the name of Nick Suzuki, who is doing pretty well right now. And you also have 2 picks after that, Erik Brannstrom, who was sent over to Ottawa in the Mark Stone trade, and who is also looking pretty good too. Both of these guys, Suzuki and Brannstrom, are established NHL players. Brannstrom I was kind of iffing about a little bit because he did need a little bit more time to break into that role, but Brannstrom to me, Ottawa next year, I think he's going to be there, and I think he's going to be great. Nick Suzuki, on the other hand, is a name that I think everybody and their mother knows about this time because he is in the Stanley Cup Finals, he is one of the best players in Montreal, he was sent over to that squad in the Max Pacioretty trade, and if you take a look at what Nick Suzuki has been able to do so far in the NHL, in the playoffs, as well in the regular season, man, it is an absolute sight to behold. 41 points in 56 games played this season as a 21-year-old forward, and 13 points in 18 games played in the playoffs. Not to mention the fact that they're in the Stanley Cup Finals right now. Nick Suzuki has been fantastic, and now you take a look at this as a Vegas Golden Knights fan and you say, darn, this guy that we traded away, Nick Suzuki, was literally one of the most impactful players for the Montreal Canadiens against our team in the 3rd round, and he is a very big part of the reason as to why we lost. And so now you look at the draft history and you say, okay, darn, we had Suzuki before, but we traded him away. How the heck did that happen? What other options did we have aside from maybe trading away Suzuki? And then you start to think about other options you had at that time frame instead of Suzuki himself. This is what Pierre Maguire said on TSN 690. He says that Vegas has to take a good, long, hard look in the mirror and figure out why they traded Nick Suzuki away and kept Cody Glass instead, whom they didn't even play once in the playoffs. Now we're talking about Cody Glass here, a guy who was supposed to be a lot better than Suzuki. I mean, he was ranked to go a lot higher, he did go a lot higher, and I remember specifically back when the Max Pacioretty trade was made, there were many Habs fans out there saying things like, oh darn, we got Suzuki? Man, why didn't we get Cody Glass? That guy should have been a lot better, he was their top prospect, and we just sent away our captain over to Vegas, why didn't we get their best guy? And according to all the rumors, all the hearsay with things talking about Ottawa as well as Montreal, Vegas just really didn't want to give away Glass. They were more prone to dangling around Nick Suzuki in trade talks, it's why he got traded to Montreal. And there was also another thing talking about how Nick Suzuki was apparently dangled in the Erik Karlsson trade talks as well, which is a completely another video for another day. But Cody Glass is the guy that the Vegas Golden Knights decided to keep over Suzuki. Where's Cody Glass now? Well, I'll tell you. He's 22 years old, 6'2", 185-pound right-handed center. Nice. He was supposed to be a really strong, two-way capable, point-producing center, especially with his draft stock that he established for himself with the Portland Winterhawks. 94 points in 69 games played, and a point per game at the U18s. Very nice. However, you give it a few more years. Down the line in 2018-19, okay, great. He is the captain of the Winterhawks. He is at double a point per game over there. Fantastic. He goes over to the Chicago Wolves in the AHL, under a point per game in the regular season, under a point per game in the postseason as well. And he goes to the World Juniors, where he is over a point per game over there for Team Canada. And things are looking really good for him, especially considering the fact that Nick Suzuki was also on that team, and he didn't produce the same amount of points as Cody Glass. Nice. Looks like you made the right decision, right, Vegas? Well, think again. Because a little bit after that World Juniors happened, Nick Suzuki went over into the Guelph Storm's playoff run, and boy oh boy was he an absolute monster. 42 points in 24 games played, and everybody kind of remembers this because he was an absolute monster, developing his two-way game, scoring points like crazy, and eventually he made the Habs the next season where he put up 41 points in 71 games. Cody Glass the next season had to stick around with the Chicago Wolves for a bit, but he was also on Vegas. He had 12 points in 39 games played. So immediately, right off the bat, you saw the development that Nick Suzuki made in the Guelph Storm's playoff run, and you said, darn, this guy's ready for the league. He is producing points for us like crazy. He got 7 points in 10 games in the playoffs. Meanwhile, Cody Glass is just kind of hanging around there. He was slowed down with injuries a little bit as well. Really not off to the right foot there for his overall development. And after 2020-2021 came around, where he was still kind of in that same limbo, 27 games played with the Knights, 10 points, okay, that's better, but he had only 1 game played in the postseason, and he was a pretty good producer for the Henderson Silver Knights in the playoffs and the regular season there too. You had yourselves a piece that was done here by Jesse Granger on The Athletic. Take a look at this. This is the Pro Hockey Rumours article going over what was said here. Vegas head coach Peter DeBoer made some comments in his closing media availability on Saturday that were not so subtly directed at Glass. A young guy cannot say he never got an opportunity, DeBoer said. I think we stuck young guys in all year and tried to put them in situations where they had an opportunity to succeed. Some have seized the moment and others have not. Some just aren't ready yet. As the Knights' most high draft profile prospect, Glass is certainly one of, if not the biggest targets of these remarks. Vegas' first ever pick at 6th overall back in 2017, Glass had been given ample opportunity so far in his career, 39 games and all that stuff, yada yada yada. A prospect with Glass's draft pedigree is expected to be doing more at this point in his career, especially as the team's other 2017 first-rounder, Nick Suzuki, is currently first or second in goals, assists, points, and time on ice this postseason among Montreal Canadiens forwards, the team that just knocked out the Knights. With just 1 year left of waiver exemption, Glass must show this season that he can be an everyday NHL contributor. If DeVore and some other clubs have doubts, they may decide to trade him now before his stock slips any further. So hey, you didn't want to trade Cody Glass before when talking to other teams about Erik Karlsson and maybe Max Pacioretty, who knows. But now you might be in a position where you might need to if he doesn't develop properly in the next few months. We have ourselves another quote here from Kelly McCrimmon, the guy who was actually tested positive for the thing while the playoffs are going on. I think it's important that Cody Glass knows that we do believe in him. Sometimes these things take time. Development doesn't always happen in a straight line. And so, long story short, he just hasn't put it all together yet. And that in itself is not a bad thing, but it looks a lot worse when you take a look at who the Knights chose him over and how those other guys whom the Knights got rid of are doing instead, like the Erik Bronstroms and the Nick Suzukis. Obviously, if Nick Suzuki never existed, you had no pick at 13th overall that Vegas made, sure, it might be a little bit easier to stomach in this way. But the fact that you had Suzuki before, and you decided to keep Glass over Suzuki, and now Suzuki's a star, Cody Glass is not, does kind of sting in the short term. Now, obviously, Cody Glass has been dominating AHL competition. Once he gets it all together at the NHL level, and once he is, frankly, used a lot more at the NHL level, we'll see a lot more out of this guy. But, and that is a very, very big but, that can only happen if a few things go right. It's not guaranteed for Cody Glass. Just in the same way that it wasn't guaranteed for Nick Suzuki. You gotta remember, Habs fans were kind of upset that they didn't acquire Glass back when the Suzuki trade was made. Now you take a look at what happened. Suzuki developed his two-way game, he learned what it meant to be a pro, and now he is a star on Montreal at the same age, actually a little bit younger because he was born later than Glass. So, if Cody Glass becomes the player that we think he could be, that we always thought he could be back in 2017, then maybe this guy could be an extraordinary fit to the puzzle for the Vegas Golden Knights, and maybe they might not need to trade for a Jack Eichel anymore because they have a hole at center. Chandler Stevenson, Tuck, and all the other guys, Tomasz Nosek, those guys are cool, but Cody Glass and what he was supposed to be, man, that's a whole boatload of better right there. So, for Cody Glass, I personally want to see him succeed. I was always a believer in him. I always kind of thought that he would have been a good Canuck as well. It was him and Middlestad, in my opinion, that I wanted the Vancouver Canucks to draft. So you could imagine my shock when they took Elias Pettersson 5th overall. That's worked very nicely in hindsight, by the way. But talk to me in the comments what you think about Cody Glass and the whole Nick Suzuki thing, how much this must sting for Golden Knights fans and their overall team profile to not have a guy like Suzuki and instead have Glass instead, who is at the moment inferior. But talk to me in the comments as well. What do you think can happen in the long-term future with Glass? I'm a believer. Are you? Let me know if you are or not. I'd love to hear your reasons why in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this video. Trolls the 99. And bye.